Hi guys, it's James, back again with another video. And this one sort of sprang out of I think the two top 10 horror films lists I did, plus the top 10 serial killer films, where I had some more horror movies that I wanted to fit into a list aside from doing a third horror film list, or seeing as I just did the serial killer list, and then there's thrillers and stuff. But there was there was one main movie that I kept forgetting to put on another list that I've talked about a few times, even on the podcast, but excuse me, I don't think gets a lot of play, gets a lot of recognition. Anyway, so I looked up a few of the movies that I had put on this list, and there was another classification, which is well known in the horror genre, and that is the slasher film. So this is top 10 slasher film, but hidden gems, top 10 slasher films. Ones you may not be aware of, or may not be that aware of. Anyway, so we'll start it off with number 10. This is a film from 2001, and it is called Ripper, Letter from Hell. I always thought it was Letters from Hell, but Letter from Hell. I had seen this one years ago. I think I had picked it up at Rogers. And I thought it was good, and then lost track of it for several years, and then I found a copy not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago. And this one stars A.J. Cook, Bruce Payne, who played Jacob Kell from Highlander Endgame, my favorite of the Highlander movies, Emmanuel Vaugier, Derek Hamilton, and Kelly Brook. And this one is A.J. Cook plays a girl who 10 years ago had survived a serial killer attack, and she got away. And then 10 years later, she's in school, and they're taking classes, studying under this professor played by Bruce Payne, and he is what's his name? I think it's Marshall Kane. And right in the first lecture, he makes like he kills one of the students. He puts on a show, pretends to kill one of the students just to put forth the idea that anybody could be a killer. And then people actually start dying, the circle of friends they have, and they start dying in manners that are similar to the Jack the Ripper murders, the Whitechapel murders, where Jack the Ripper killed a bunch of prostitutes. And as it goes on, it turns out that the people being killed have the same initials as the Jack the Ripper victims. So you're wondering like who the killer might be, why they're killing. Well, kind of just told you why they're killing, but if it's one of them, or if it's the professor, or if it's someone else. And I thought I'm fascinated by Jack the Ripper, but I thought the whole putting it as a motive in the movie was pretty interesting. And it's well done. It is. So, Ripper, Letter from Hell. Number 9, we have a film from 2006 called All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. And this was the first film by Jonathan Levine, who did The Whackness, 50-50, The Long Shot, Snatched, Warm Bodies, and this was one he had done, but it didn't get released for I think a few years. It was finished, but wasn't, and shown at festivals, I think, but it wasn't released until a few years later. So I think it got released after he had done The Whackness and possibly 50-50. And let me see, distribution, release. Yeah, it was a while before it got released. It was supposed to be in 2006, then it was supposed to be in 2007. and 2008, 2010, and then looks like it was finally given a limited theatrical release in October of 2013. And then I had seen it, I think I found a DVD copy at Family Video that used to be in St. Thomas. They had a lot of hard to find movies. So it did finally get a release, but it was like 7-8 years after the movie was actually initially shown anywhere. And this one, sorry, getting off topic. This one stars Amber Heard, Michael Welch, Anson Mount, Whitney Able, Edwin Hodge, Luke Grimes, and Amber Heard plays Mandy Lane, and she's sort of a girl who blossoms into a popular girl that all the guys lust after, and she even uses it to, there's one not so good guy, and she convinces him to, they're at a house party, jump off the roof into the pool. And he's like, jumps off the roof, he's like, I love you, Mandy Lane. And he's a little bit short, and he cracks his head on the side of the pool and falls in the pool and dies. Well, a little while later, a bunch of the cool kids are going out to a farmhouse to have a party. And that's where the bulk of the meat of the movie really starts, because they're all there, and then people start getting picked off one by one. And it's essentially that. It's one of those single location, all the friends dying one by one, and who's the killer. So, and I like or love all of Jonathan Levine's films, even Snatched, which I couldn't even believe it was even directed by him. I didn't even realize it when it came out. Because that one does have some humor in it. I'd put this on the level of Snatched right down at the bottom of his movies, because all the rest, there's a big gap. All the rest I love, and these ones I like. But I like them, yeah. But it's good as a first film, but he made a giant leap from his subsequent films. Oh, he also did The Night Before. He made a giant leap from his subsequent films, but it was a good starting point, a very good first film for him. So that was All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. Number 8, we have a Norwegian film from 2006 called Cold Prey. This was one I picked up just on a whim, because I thought it looked and sounded interesting. But I think the only recognizable actor that you'd recognize in the movie would be, I believe it's Ingrid Bolso Berdal. She plays Yannick, and you would recognize her from Westworld, season 1 and 2. She played Armistice, the one with the red snake tattoo that went all the way up her body and the side of her head and stuff. And in this one, a group of friends are going skiing. I think it's skiing and snowboarding. Snowboarding vacation in Jotunheimen, whatever, Norway. And one of them hurts his leg. One of the guys hurts his leg, and they have to take refuge at wherever they can nearby. And it turns out to be this old abandoned hotel that's been shut down for 30 years. And there, again, single location, they start getting attacked by this masked killer who has only one eye. So I don't know if he's masked killer, but he only has one eye. He's got like an eye patch or something. And they read about, I think there's flashbacks and stuff. You find out that there was this kid who had one eye who was killed in a landslide, but apparently didn't die, and is taking revenge on anyone who comes into his domain, because it was his parents who ran the hotel. So There is a sequel which I haven't watched yet, and I think there was a third one that was supposed to have come out, which may have been a prequel to show how the kid became a killer. But for what it is, primarily single location slasher film. It was well done. The director's name stood out to me. It's Roar Uthag, but I can't remember what else he's done. Anyway, that was Cold Prey. Number 7, we have a film from 2009 called The Hills Run Red. And this one, another one I picked up on a whim because the cover looked interesting. And mainly because the killer in the movie, he's called the babyface killer, and he wears this cracked porcelain baby's mask on his face. Very creepy looking. And this one stars Sophie Monk, Tag Hilgenbrink, who was Stifler's younger brother, not in American Pie, but in the Bandcamp, the direct-to-video sequel. And he was also in Lost Boys, The Tribe, the direct-to-video sequel. And we also have William Sadler. And this is Tag Hilgenbrink he's a sort of like a cinephile or film student, and he's fascinated by this movie called The Hills Run Red, which is supposedly one of the scariest films ever made, and it's infamous, but no one's ever seen it, and it's never been released. Excuse me. And they get word that they may be able to find a copy of it out in the middle of in the woods, middle of nowhere, where the guy who made the film lives. And again, they get out there, not exactly a single location because it's like this farmhouse with woods surrounding it, but it turns out that the babyface killer from the movie Hills Run Red is real and starts terrorizing them and killing them. And there's some twists in there, which I won't go into, that make it worth checking out. I thought it was, for a movie I'd never heard of, I thought it was well done. A hidden gem, as it were. The Hills Run Red. Number 6, we have a film from 2004 called Malevolence. And this is one that I picked up because it looked and sounded interesting again, but it sort of harkens back to old school horror films like the original Halloween and stuff. They even use, not the same music, but the way they use the music and the look of the film has a very late 70s, early 80s look. Not bad, not poor film quality if you watch a movie from then back now that hasn't been remastered or anything, but it has that look and feel and sound, the atmosphere. And there's you wouldn't really recognize anybody in the movie, but it's a group. These three people, I think it's 2 guys and a girl, and they rob a bank, and they have to seek refuge in this old, I don't know if it's an old farmhouse or a house in the middle of nowhere, and they're seeking refuge there, and they start getting, again, terrorized by a masked, a hooded killer. He's got like a sack over his head. It's sort of like Jason did originally. And I can't remember if they discover a backstory or you hear, no, they do, they find tapes and stuff. Turns out they'd start discovering the backstory of the person who might be attacking them, terrorizing them. In that there was a child years ago, decades ago, a child was kidnapped by this killer, another, like a serial killer, this older gentleman. And he basically kept the kid captive and tormented him and terrorized him, and his purpose was to turn him into a killer. And he did, but the kid grew up to be a man and became so dangerous and powerful that he ended up killing his captor. So it's sort of like he got killed by his own creation. And then he runs rampant around these guys. And they did make there's 3 movies apparently. I have the first 2, Malevolence. The sequel, which is actually a prequel, is called Bereavement, and it's meant to be the backstory of the captor raising the kid to be a killer. And I think there's a third one called Malevolence 3 something. What did it say? It does say Malevolence 3 Killer. And apparently it came out in 2018, but I haven't seen it anywhere. But I've been meaning to watch the prequel and rewatch this one because it is a very well done movie. The director is Stephen Mina. And yeah, this one is definitely worth checking out. Malevolence. Number 5, we have a film from 2008 called Train. I saw this one on the shelf and thought it seemed interesting, and it is. This one stars Thora Birch, and you might recognize, I think it's Gideon Emery, Derek Magyar, who I hadn't seen at this time before, but he pops up in another film on this list. And it's this Olympic or U.S. wrestling team, and they're in Eastern Europe, and they're traveling to a championship, and they get on this train. Turns out they get on the way wrong train to get on, because it turns out people on this train start abducting people and torturing them and killing them in one of the back cars. It's almost like Hostel on a Train, or just because the graphic nature of the killings in the movie is, well, pretty graphic, but pretty intense, and you're wondering who's going to survive and how do you get off this train, get away from these killers. When the train's moving, you can't get up, you can't stop it. So definitely a hidden gem in this case. This was very, very cool. Train. Number 4, we have a film from 2004 called Creep. Now, this isn't the other Creep, which I believe starred Mark Duplass, which I've had this recommended to me multiple times, either by the same person or by more than one person, but I haven't yet checked that one out. But this one I found online just because I was looking up, and it's a film by Christopher Smith, who did Black Death. He did the movie Triangle. He's done several films, and this was one of the horror films he did. And this one stars Frank Potente and his name, Sean Harris. And Frank Potente plays Kate, and I believe it takes place in Germany, and she ends up, it's another one where she's taking the subway, and she ends up getting lost in the subway tunnels, and her and a few other people are being pursued by this deranged sort of like mutant killer played by Sean Harris. And it's sort of like Stag Night and maybe Mimic, where most of the movie takes place in the underground subway tunnels, which also fascinate me, and just the whole world that exists down there. And is she gonna get away? Who's this killer? Why is he terrorizing people? And will she ever see the light of day? And it's very intense, very cool. And the makeup that they put on for Sean Harris, the prosthetics and the makeup, are pretty impressive too. That is Creep. Number 3, we have a film from 2007 called Storm Warning. This is one of the ones that was released under the Dimension Extreme banner. And this was directed by Jamie Blanks, who did Valentine and the first Urban Legend film. And this one was shot made in Australia, because I believe he's Australian. And it stars Nadia Fares and Robert Taylor. And it's pretty much this married couple are on this little boat, this little boat trip through some of the marshlands. And they end up, it's getting dark, so they moor the boat aside, and it starts to rain. There's a storm warning. And they go towards this farmhouse, a lot of farmhouses. Sorry, didn't mean to do that, but and to get out of the rain, they find this like big storage room full of pot and stuff. Then these Australian rednecks come out of nowhere and grab them, and things sort of spiral down from there, because they have a little criminal enterprise there, and they can't let these people get away because they've seen what they're doing there. And there's some very, very violent things that happen. And it's one of those, two people are in a situation that they don't know how to get out of. They've seen something they shouldn't, and they stumbled into the absolute worst possible house they could have. So it's how it goes from there. That is Storm Warning. Very, very gory, very cool. And yeah, just impressive movie from Jamie Blanks. I wish he did more, but he doesn't really make films anymore, I believe. Number 2, we have a film from 2006 called Stay Alive. And this is one of those, there's some movies where, like Matrix, where you die in the Matrix, you die in real life, you die in your dream, you die in real life. Well, this one involves a video game that is killing people. If you get killed while playing the video game, you will die in real life. There's a group of friends that get back together to play this game. One of them gets their hands on this bootleg, yet to be unreleased version of a game called Stay Alive. And one of the friends of one of the guys, I think it's John Foster, and one of his friends was playing the game with his girlfriend, and they both lost and then were found brutally murdered. So they decide to figure out what's going on playing this game. And it stars, John Foster, Samara Armstrong, Frankie Muniz, Sophia Bush, Jimmy Simpson, Wendell Pierce, Milo Ventimiglia, Adam Goldberg, and Alice Krieg. And also there's a brief role by James Haven, who is the brother of Angelina Jolie. And this one's really cool. I only saw the unrated version. I heard that it's very different from the theatrical version, but the unrated version I saw was very cool, because the game, I like horror video games, especially the Silent Hill ones. This one looks like it would be a fun game to play if it existed. But the horror elements are great, but they also splice in some humor elements that are very funny. And it sort of revolves around the Blood Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who was known for bathing in the blood of virgin girls she killed in order to stay young forever. Well, apparently, you read some poem at the beginning of the game when they start playing, and this somehow brings her back to life so she can wreak havoc on anyone who plays the game. So that's the basis for the movie, and it's very cool. Stay Alive. Number one with a bullet is from 2012. It's a film called No One Lives. This is one of the reasons I made this list. And it's a film by Ryuhei Kitamura. And the only other film that I'd seen of his was Midnight Meat Train, a movie they made with Vinnie Jones and Bradley Cooper that was based on the story by Clive Barker. This one was produced by WWE Films, so there's a WWE wrestler in there, and there is Brodus Clay. But this is the other one that starred Derek Magyar, but it also stars Laura Ramsey, Luke Evans, Lee Tergesen, Lindsay Shaw, America Olivo, Bo Knapp, and it's essentially this couple is traveling, and it's Luke Evans and there's Adelaide Clemens, and it's this group, this couple, Luke Evans and Laura Ramsey are traveling, and they end up in a restaurant, and this criminal family are there, and they antagonize them and stuff, and they had botched a home invasion robbery by the owners showing up, and they had to kill them and stuff. So to make up, and one of them, Derek Magyar, is the younger brother, or the son, I think, of Lee Tergesen in the movie. And to make up for his botched operation, he kidnaps this couple and terrorizes them, and they have a knife to the guy's his significant other's throat, and she ends up cutting her own throat so that he can get out of the situation. And he ends up murdering, I think it's Brodus Clay, and he ends up murdering him. And the other guys find out that there's a girl in the back of their trailer trapped in there. So they rescue her, take her back to the house, and it turns out that they've antagonized and threatened the worst possible person in the world. He's pretty much like a serial killer, and he's kept one girl captive for a while, who is this rich heiress, and he killed like 11 or 12 people in this house and took her. And so they have her, and he's going to get her back, but he's probably the most dangerous person in the world, and they've just made him very, very angry. So it's not exactly a movie where you're rooting for them or rooting for him, because it's bad versus worse. But it's an amazing movie if you like this kind of movie. Luke Evans is so awesome in this movie, and you have basically he's coming after them, and you have his captor. She's there with the criminal family. She's basically scaring the shit out of them, because saying like, you don't understand who you're dealing with. He's going to kill all of you and take me back anyway. There's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, if you don't care for a movie that's produced by WWE Films, I would forget about that, because the movie is awesome. Awesome in every way. That is No One Lives. All right, well, that is the end of this list. I really liked this one. I'm glad I got to finish it and give it to you guys. So, like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Toodles.